Morning, peeps. I'm back for two reasons. One, to tell you about my change of transfer plans, and two, to make a few comments about the new black box. Now, I don't like putting my head on the chopping block, and I probably won't be very popular for what I've got to say, but I'll say it at the end. It's not what you think it is. I like the show. I really like as a presenter and all of that, and I really want it to succeed. But I've got a constructive criticism, I guess, to make at the end that hopefully will not be taken the wrong way. So now you lot, you're going to skip straight to the end, aren't you? Because you don't care about my transfer. I know that. You know that. But I have thought about changing it because, like I said, I think Matata is my weakest link. And there are also three very good options to replace him with. And I think part of the reason I was reluctant to take him out was because choosing that replacement is just so difficult. So difficult. You've got Visser, you've got Wood, and you've got Cunha. A lot of people are asking which one to bring in. Nobody, I think, really knows. None of us can know. We don't know which one's going to get the most points. All we can do is hazard a guess. You can look at all the stats you like that tell you that Wood is out of form. He's not getting the chances. When he is, he's not converting at the ridiculous rate he was earlier in the season. But at the end of the day, we're home to Leicester, and he could fire up, unquestionably. Unquestionably. It's a hugely important game for Forest. They're out the cup now. Their fixture congestion is easing a little bit. And Leicester aren't great. I mean, all Leicester are going to care about is trying to get a goal for Vardy, which means they're not going to care too much probably if Forest score a few. But on the downside, of course, Forest are more of a defensive side themselves and not necessarily, so it's tricky, basically. Now, I have decided between Visser and Cunha, and for me, it's Cunha. I've ruled out Visser because if I'm captaining Buemo, I do not want to be having all my eggs in the one basket. If I had De Bruyne, which a lot of people will, and I wasn't captaining Buemo, I would go Visser over Cunha. So it's situational, very situational. But once you get to game week 38 and Cunha's at home to Brentford, I'd much rather have Cunha and Buemo than Buemo and Visser. I want to share the love around a little bit. And I don't want both. I don't want both. So I've ruled Visser out. So it's a straight toss up between Wood and Cunha. As everyone said, Wood's got a better fixture this week, but I think the next two are better for Cunha. And in particular, the Palace match. 3 days after the 3 days after the FA Cup final, and the FA Cup final is normally extremely tiring mentally and physically. They're not going to recover from it, and it's going to be probably a heavily rotated Palace side, either or they put the same players out that are tired. And I'd rather have Cunha than Wood away at West Ham, for example. And the following week, Forest are home to Chelsea. I certainly don't want Wood scoring in that. So what's the point of me having someone in the last week when I don't even want them to score? So for me, that rules him out. So I'd much rather have Cunha, I think, for the long term. And I want to finish the season with a green arrow in game week 38. So I'm kind of setting myself up for a good 38 rather than a brilliant 36. Because this week I've got my assistant manager kind of covering me. I saw a video today, excellent video, by the way, with Harry and Tom, I think. I think it's called Burning Questions. I really like that show. They do that every week. And Harry was kind of saying the same thing with his bench boost. He was going to take a couple of hits and make up the points with his bench boost. And I'm thinking the same for not trying to get a huge score in 37 and just using my assistant manager to buffer other people's points and have a better team in 38. I've also ruled out a defensive transfer because Forest are rubbish in defensively lately, and like I said, Leicester, all they care about is Vardy getting a goal probably. And knowing Vardy, he probably will, won't he? So, right, that's basically it. So, very situational. Oh, one more thing. Somebody in the chat yesterday asked me who they should put their assistant manager on, and I said Wolves. And now I'm feeling a bit bad for it because when I said it, I thought Wolves and Brighton was a table bonus match, but it's not. Brighton are only 4 places above Wolves now. So, don't do it on my account. It's safer to go Forest at home to Leicester or whoever. There's safer fixtures this week from Wolves at home to Brighton. I do think it'll be high scoring, but knowing which team's going to win it isn't particularly easy, I suspect. Anyway, so now I watched Blackbox this morning. Now, this isn't a big criticism because, like I said, I really want the show to succeed and everything. But there's one thing about it that annoys me, and that is Andy with his constant sexual innuendos that he comes out with all the time. It's like every couple of minutes there'll be some, normally to do with Chris Wood, or I've heard him talk about other players and other things as well. It's like constant, sort of. He does it all the time. He does it on the Scout as well, and I just find it a bit annoying. It's a bit cringy. I find it, and it's all right. Like maybe once an episode, make a joke about Chris Wood and his, but it's like every 3 or 4 minutes he's doing it the whole way through, and he's a teacher. Pick yourself up, give yourself a slap. Do your school kids want to hear you going on like that? Because I know it's not bad and it's kind of funny, I guess. Some people find it funny, but me personally, it actually stops me watching the show, to be quite frank. If I know that he's on there and they're going to be doing that every week, then I'm not going to watch it, basically. And I don't know if I'm the only one who thinks that. Maybe I am. But I don't want you to take this the wrong way. It's just like a bit of constructive criticism, because if I don't say anything and nobody says anything, then you're not going to know, are you? So, and it's probably best you do, So, obviously, it probably won't make me popular in certain circles, but I do. I love the show and I really want it to succeed. And that's why I am mentioning it, because best you start off on the right foot, I think, rather than, it's just all getting a bit silly. Anyway, peeps, I'm off now. I've done the damage, and I also don't want people piling in on them because of what I've said. Because like I said, I really want that show to succeed. As is a really good sort. He's a nice bloke and everything, and I really hope they do well. It's a bit weird having Mark in the audience today, wasn't it? When you think if you're in the audience, come on, talk, because it's all a bit weird. Anyway, peeps, I'm off now, so I'll talk to you later. Remember, I'm either doing Matata to Wood or Cunha. I think it's going to be Cunha, But honestly, I haven't had to hide behind the couch for a while. But this week, I'm going to be doing a lot of hiding because I'm terrified of De Bruyne, and I'm also a bit worried about Chris Wood, to be quite frank. I don't know what his ownership is now. I don't know what his ownership is. Let's see what his ownership is here in this crowd. So, who's people bringing in? Matata, you see a lot of people taking Matata out, Visser and Wood. Not many Cunhas up there. Not many Cunhas. Few people taking out Mamouche to Cunha next week. The other reason I'm getting Cunha is I think it is more likely to save me a transfer going forward, because I am going to want to target that Palace match, I think, after the FA Cup final. And if I didn't take my Tata out this week, he'd have to go next week anyway, wouldn't he? So, whereas Sarr, I can just bench him and play Rodgers, because they're pretty much much of a muchness, those two, aren't they, most weeks? Anyway, peeps, I'll talk to you all later. So, like and subscribe and all that. And good luck for the game week if I don't see you beforehand. But you never know. I might be back. And one other thing that I don't like. The bloody leakers. The leakers again. You know, everyone's waiting. Everyone's waiting for De Bruyne. They're waiting for that little FPL main road grub and the Tony grub to give them all the team news, aren't they? And it's so annoying every single week. I think FPL, please, either put the deadline at the start or move it back another half an hour, because you've got people, they toy with the community. Did you see FPL main road last week? He's going, oh, I might tell you, but I'm trying to get my team in the top 10k, and he waits till like a minute before the deadline and then tells everyone, and he's got the community like on a string. You know, I mean, I don't like to see it. You know, it's worse than jokes about Chris Wood. You know what I mean? This makes an unlevel playing field. It's not good. I've got to stay up till deadline now, because I can't risk not staying up and giving all these people an unfair advantage. You know what I mean? It'd be much better if the blooming people didn't even exist, to be quite frank. Anyway, peeps, I'm off now. It's been a long day. I'm tired. I'm grumpy. I'm going back to bed. Cheers for now. And I haven't even put my screen up. So like and subscribe, and cheers.